Hello, welcome. I'm Thomas Michaud, and this is Real Guitar Live. I'm here to answer your guitar-related questions. Please feel free at any time to add a question into the chat. I'm going to start with the pre-submitted questions. Got my guitar ready. And if you could, just say something in the chat. Let me know that you can hear me and see me fine. This technology thing is always a little hit or miss for me, and I'd feel better if somebody said, it's working. Thanks. Let's start with the first question, and then I'll look over the chat. I'm trying to play the following descending progression, G, D / F sharp, then to an E minor chord and a C chord. So that's 4 chords, G, D / F sharp, that's F sharp in the bass, E minor to C. Oh. I hear noises, but nobody said you can hear me. Can you hear me? A lot of people saying hi. Okay. 4 chords. G, G, D. That's a D with the F sharp in the bass. So D with the F sharp over here. Maybe that's how you play it. There we go. You know what? If I were to just make it so you could see my guitar, that would save me a lot of trouble. There we go. Okay, now I can keep my guitar down here. There, that's the D with the F sharp in the bass, to E minor, to C. So, Shulamit's saying my fingers are too small, and I'm being told to play it like this, which is a very valid way to play that chord. A little bit over here. Make sure you can see my hands. Okay, there. That's the D, and that's the F sharp in the bass. Well, Shulamit, the easiest thing to do is just refinger the chord. So you put your index finger on the second fret of the bass string, and then you make the D chord with your second, third, and pinky like this. Now see, I'm stretching my index finger over. Bit of a stretch, more so with the wide neck of a nylon string guitar. If this is an ongoing problem with other chords as well, you might want to get a guitar with a little smaller neck. But this works for me. And I like this better than this. A lot of people on electric guitar play it like this because it's easy to get your thumb around the neck of an electric guitar. Okay, let me come back. Looks like I'm... There we go. Is that better? Yeah, you can see my guitar better. Next question. Oh, hear you loud and clear. Yay! When I first pick up the guitar to play, very often the chords I'm playing don't sound good to me. I check to see if my instrument's even in tune. And Ron says, after a little while, they start sounding good. Is this common? You find this with other students? And the answer is absolutely yes. As a matter of fact, not just students. I often, when I first start out in the morning, I just do a warm-up because I know I'm not going to sound good. And part of the warm-up is letting go of worried about whether it sounds good or not. It's just getting my hands moving. And I am finding it takes longer as I get older than when I was younger to get warmed up. It's just a part of the process. Consider your first few minutes just warming up. No judgment. Don't even worry about whether it sounds good or even if you're hitting the right strings, but you just keep nudging it back. But the trick with warm-up is to keep it low energy. In other words, don't try to do something too complicated or too strenuous fingers-wise, and to not judge whether it's good. Not that easy, at least not for me. I want to sound good all the time. I get it, but it really will save you a lot of stress if you can aim that direction, move more that direction. It's all about the best you can. There's hardly ever an absolute got it, that's it. In the first lesson of Silky Shadows, that's part of the Jazzy G session inside my Real Guitar Success membership, The series is Jazzy G, and I'm teaching during 5 days parts of this song. It's a simple song with jazzy chords. The G major 7 looks like an A minor chord moved up 2 frets. So he's saying the G major 7 chord looks like an A minor moved up here, 2 frets, sorry. And then it has the index finger over here. That is a G major 7. And I'm finding that the A minor 7 and the B minor 7 shapes, they look like major chord shapes. So he's talking about the A minor 7. I don't have the Jazzy G up, so I'm going to assume it's this A minor 7. A minor 7. Oh, no, maybe this. So this is A minor 7, and this is A minor 7. This kind of looks like a major chord, like an E major. And the B minor 7 would be a bar chord. I'm pretty sure it's this one. So it's like the A minor 7 moved up 2 frets with a bar. So his question is, why does the G major 7 look like a minor chord? And of course, why does these minor chords have shapes kind of like major chords? And first of all, Dave, the guitar is kind of crazy, the way it's organized. You can't really associate the music theory like you can on a piano. In other words, if you make a chord on the piano a certain way and you move it up and down, that shape pretty much, if you make a major chord down here and you move it up an octave or 2 octaves or whatever, it's always the same shape. It always looks the same. But look at this. This is a B minor 7 chord. Let's say I want to move up and play one up here. I'm going to have to change the whole shape. Looks totally different. But it's because the way the strings are organized on the neck. In short, you cannot associate the actual shape with the notes. The notes serve, the shape serves the notes, not the other way around. In other words, you find the shape that gets you the notes that you want in whatever part of the neck, and it's going to change. So a G major 7 here, yeah, that basically, those 3 notes make a minor chord. But when you add the bass note of G, now it's a G major 7. It has to do, if you were thinking theory, the intervals between the notes. But you can't see it so much on the guitar because the strings don't correlate with, physical distance between notes like on the piano. One note here, one note here, it's that far apart. You can't see that on the guitar so easy. And the same with the minor chord. This is an A minor form. But if you move the whole thing over here, now it's a major chord. And again, the notes serve the form serves the notes, not the other way around. So I'm finding the notes that make a major chord on this part of the strings. If I were to take off this finger, now it's a minor chord. If I make this minor chord and I take off this finger, it's a suspended chord. Again, the form serves the notes. I can't think of anything else to say about that right now, but feel free to ask more questions. Maybe it brings up something that I can clarify more. I'm in my 70s, Stefan says, and I've been playing open chords okay. This is common. People come to me, and they've been playing open chords for a while, and they want to actually make progress and start playing bar chords. And in case Stefan says he wants to do finger picking, he loves both his acoustic and his classical guitars. I'm interested in moving forward with bar chords and finger picking. Where do I start? So Stefan is signed up for my Real Guitar Success membership. And this gives me a chance to both talk theoretically about how to progress, but also to show the membership a little bit. So here's the inside of the membership, Stefan. And what I'm going to do is, this is the home dashboard. I'm going to get to the courses. And I'll go up here, lessons and course library. This is where all the courses are, because now I can show you easily. So first of all, you've been playing some open chords, and this is a common thread, regardless of my system or if you're just playing on your own or have a private teacher. If you've been learning on your own, I don't know your level, of course, but if you've been learning on your own, you likely have some holes in your learning that you will benefit greatly by kind of filling in. I often tell students that come to me, I've been playing for a while, when I was at my music school, it's like Swiss cheese. you have this form, but there's all these holes. And if we can fill those holes, you're going to make progress right away. It'll sound better, everything you play already. And then you have a foundation that you can build on much easier than, keep having things that are holding you back. One of the big issues with people who play open chords is often they can play a bunch of chords, but they can't change between the chords in time smoothly. And that's the first thing I would deal with, actually. A good way to handle it, since you're in my course, is to just use the initial beginning sessions as kind of a review and go as quickly as you can, see where you have problems, spend more time where you need some work, and the ones that are easy, just brush over them, keep going. And you can always go back. You always have access to them. So you don't have to do the quick start necessarily, but start with the Super 7 chords. Just review. This is going to show you the main chords we're going to be working with, and then the easy strum adventure. This is where you might need some work. Switching between chords in time. I really break it down and have you work step by step to be able to switch chords in time confidently and to feel like you can get to that next chord in time. So what you'll see, there is a system to this, and most people ignore that. They learn the chords and they strum back and forth a few times, and I'm telling you, this will make everything you play sound better. Then, when you feel you're ready, I would go through the whole course and just check them off. Go on to the guitar session quick start. You'll see, this is great. It's 5 sessions, and I'm going to break down a blues song step by step over 5 days. Work on each part, and in the process, you're going to learn the elements of playing the song on the 5th day, but you're also going to learn a system for breaking down songs and elements, not just songs, but chord progressions and things, into pieces, and then put them back together. And I'm going to walk you through this. It's not just, you'll figure it out by osmosis. I'm going to show you how these parts work, and I'm going to use that as a template for moving forward. Because after you complete that, you're going to start the guitar sessions. There's a new one every week, and they're broken down into 5 days. Each day has an element that we're going to put together, rhythm, chords, some licks, some improvising, some different theory I'll throw in. And then on the 5th day, we'll put it all together and give you something tangible, usually playing around with a play-along track so you can play in time and sound good. So once you do that, you're eligible. You can just keep going through the guitar sessions, and every week you're going to get something new. You're going to get something to work on. It'll include bar chords sometimes finger picking, sometimes some different techniques. If you want extra help with finger picking, which I would recommend actually, but it's going to require a little more practice on your part, go ahead and start at the same time that you're doing the guitar sessions. Start doing the Bar Chords for Everyone course. This is a great course where I break down bar chords step by step, and I give you the elements of playing bar chords and help you to feel that sense of confidence as you play through the sessions that you can play bar chords. This is not a hit or miss, play bar chords, you get it or you don't. You're going to play bar chords by the end of this course, and probably before the end of the course. I'm just going to refine it. And as a bonus, I throw in some very valuable music theory along the way that I can do at bar chords and show you how chords fit together in keys and things like that. There is also fingerstyle courses separate. I don't know why they're so far apart, but there's a 1 and 2. Start with 1 and go to 2. It doesn't require bar chords, so if you want to go there first, that's fine. You can do it anytime you want. You can always go to this section and start the fingerstyle, finish it, do part of it, move on whenever you want. And you might want to just look around, see what else is here. I got some theory stuff and a variety of things. So that idea is really what I'd recommend to anybody is consolidate what you already know. Make sure you get your timing with your chords, that you can play in some of the basic keys, and then go on and start adding bar chords after that, and do it in a methodical way. Start with exercises to strengthen your bar finger and to move to the different forms of bar chords, and start with bar chords that are easier to play than harder ones. Believe it or not, the most useful bar chord is the F chord, and it's one of the most difficult because it's up here on the neck, and that's where a lot of tension is to make that bar. So I have people starting bar chords here and then moving back, and it makes it much easier. Okay, again, feel free to ask questions related to this, or if you just think of something, throw it in the chat. I'm going to get back to the questions that I'm answering. God, I just realized I was doing all this and you couldn't see my. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again, but I was talking about. Now that you've seen that, this is what I was doing, showing you the beginning courses. You can skip this one. Chords review. This is where you get your strumming and timing between the chords. Do the guitar session quick start. Now I'll break down the guitar sessions and show you how they work and show you how to break down songs and elements. And then you go on to the guitar sessions at the same time. You might want to go over here to the bar chords for everyone. And there are also 2 fingerstyle courses anytime. You can throw those in. And I got there by just going to the home dashboard. When you sign up, it usually takes you right there, but you can always get there right here. Home dashboard, and then go to lessons, RGS library. Sorry about that. Unfortunately, that's not unusual for me. Okay, enough confession time. Let's get on with something else. How do you use transitional chords? How do you know which chords to use in a progression and when to use them? Also, how do you figure out the timing within the rhythm you're playing? So Shulam was asking about something I call, she calls them transitional chords. What would I call this? Passing chord? So we're talking about chords like this. I'm on the G chord, and I'm going to an E minor, and I want to squeeze a chord in there. So this is a good one. That's a common progression going from G. So I just played 1 bar of each chord, and I want to squeeze a chord in between there. I think of the bass note, and I'm thinking what chord would give me a bass note that would move down in bass note wise. So I'm on the G bass note, and I'm going down to the E bass note. So what chord is in between there? The first one, I've done this many times, so I would probably go to that F, the D with the F sharp in the bass, to E minor. And I don't know a magic formula for this, except for I'm thinking the bass note, I want it to go descending, and I've practiced this particular move several times, so I know that's in my tool bag. G to D with the F sharp in the bass. Because see, I'm doing the bass note to the E minor. So if you were just do G, that works too. It's just not quite as passing. It doesn't sound like it's quite connecting the chords as cleanly. Timing. If I were playing 1 measure G and 1 measure E minor, I might put that D right at the last beat of the G instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. Depends on the style and the song, of course. You could do 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, again, it depends on the song and the style that you're after. Let's do another one. This is a common one. C, going to A minor. So again, I'm looking at bass note. C bass note, B, A minor. C, this is a C, bass note, B. That's a C with a B in the bass note. C/B is how I would say that. I'll go to my guitar just for a minute, so make sure you can see the C, B, and to A minor. And again, if I were to put it in that last beat, something like that. Let's do A minor to F. This is... That's a common progression. So it's A minor to F. That's what I call the hit maker progression. It's such a common progression in pop music. A minor going to F. Let's see, A minor. I want to, for bass note wise, it's going to be A. I'm going to go G to the F. A minor. That's A minor with a G in the bass. Actually, A minor 7. That'd be A minor with a G in the bass, but I prefer the A minor 7. Easier to play to the F. So like this. Did that work? That sound good? Let me do it one more time. Yeah, that sounds normal, like something I've heard many times. Let's do one more that's not bass note oriented. D going to G is a common movement. I would often put in the middle there a D sus. That's just where I put my pinky down on the first string, 3rd fret. I did was add a little extra note and made it sound like a suspended 4th. Okay, let me stop with that. If you feel free to add anything in the chat, and I'm going to go on to the next question. In your honest opinion, this is Brandon, why don't YouTube videos work as lessons but in person? Lessons do. Oh, I get it. In your honest opinion, why don't YouTube lesson videos work, but in-person lessons do? Well, first of all, I wouldn't say YouTube videos don't work. I have learned a lot from YouTube videos, and I still will continue to learn a lot from YouTube videos. The main problem with YouTube videos, there's a few problems. One is that there just is, okay, YouTube rewards people who get attention and get you to watch through the whole video. So the focus on people who make YouTube videos is not how can I best teach this concept. It's how can I keep you engaged, get you to watch my video and keep you engaged so YouTube will reward me and show you more videos and pay me money on the back end or whatever if you're selling something. And there's this constant tug of war because often I know when I'm making a YouTube video, if I wanted to really break something down and explain the theory and all, I wouldn't get enough viewers to be worth it. I'd waste a lot of time and energy, and YouTube would basically not show that video to a lot of people. So the problem there is that you're getting lessons that aren't really oriented towards teaching you in the best way possible. That and videos aren't sequential. You know, if you really want to learn something, you want to start at one place and then keep adding on complexity, and it doesn't work that way. When you're making YouTube videos, you have to think what issue is going to get somebody's attention and get them to click on my video, not what's the next thing they need to learn. And also, a lot of YouTube videos I have watched, they just don't teach very well. They don't have to. That again, the point of YouTube is more about entertainment and getting eyeballs like ads than it is about being a very good teacher. There are some great teachers on there too, so that's I would say as a sub problem. I know from watching them when somebody is explaining something well, or if they went too fast, or they skipped some steps. But if you're beginning, that's awkward. You don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So with in-person lessons, an in-person teacher can make sure that what they just taught you is going to the next step. They can say, oh yeah, you got that. Let's add this to it. Let's add this to it. Let's add this to it. No, that's not quite right. Let's come at it a different way. You can't do that with a video, with YouTube. If you had a series of videos that was in order, you'd have a better chance of that. You could say, here's this lesson, and here's what comes next when you get that, and here's what comes next. And by the way, I've seen this problem many times. Let's work on it this way as well. YouTube doesn't work that way. This all depends on having a good teacher. Some teachers are not very organized in person. So it's not just a blanket rule. In person's always better than YouTube. I cannot say that. I would say I'd rather have a really well done YouTube video than a bad in-person teacher, quite frankly. Okay, I'll stop there. How do you know when I'm ready to play with my church worship team? So Brandon's asking a question that I dealt with. I actually played in church for years. And I would say, first of all, there are a lot of little cues. You need to be able to play the songs all the way through that you're going to play. You need to be able to probably follow the chord chart, because usually in church, it's not about memorizing the songs. You have a chord chart and you have to follow the chord chart and be able to follow that. It really helps if you can be able to play the songs well enough that you don't have to like concentrate and think really hard about where you're at, because in a live situation, you have many distractions, even just your own thoughts about people are watching. So you need to kind of be a little better prepared in your practicing than when you're playing live. And, you know, it kind of helps to talk to, depending on if you're going to play with other people or the worship leader, and ask them what would they expect of somebody who's joining their worship team. And churches are not all the same. There are some churches that use very simple folk style songs, and they're much easier than more complex, really, arranged tunes, which requires more ability, more experience. I've seen some churches that are, wow, I mean, they really go all out. And so you have to be a really good musician to play in that context. And then I've played in situations where we're just playing 4-chord tunes on the guitar. Just have to be able to strum and play in time. And that's a critical issue, by the way. One of the biggest skills I see lacking in guitar players is being able to change chords smoothly and in time. And that will hold you back. That said, for the most part, you'll never quite be ready. You'll never feel like you're totally ready. You just can't get there from playing in your home or playing outside of playing in front of people. So you have to somehow make that leap at some point. You might want to play, initially the easier songs and sit out on the more complex ones maybe to get going. But generally speaking, I find people hold back a little longer than they need to, and that holds them back. Next question. How do you know when I'm ready to quit using a guitar tuner or a tuning app and start tuning using a keyboard or a keyboard to tune, a piano? So, Brandon, I never use a keyboard to tune. I always use a guitar tuner, and I always will use a guitar tuner. What I like about guitar tuners is it's very fast and easy. And I can tune by ear, but I'm faster on the guitar tuners. I want to get to practicing. I don't want to be tweaking. And if I'm playing with anybody else, we'll all use the same tuner, and I know we're all going to be in tune. Absolutely, no question about it. I don't have a keyboard handy all the time, and I don't want to depend on having a keyboard. If I were playing with a piano player, I would probably tune to the piano player. And then there's no ready. You just do it. You do your best you can, and you can or you can't. Check with your tuner. The longer you tune with a tuner, the better chance you're going to be able to tune with something like a keyboard or a pitch fork. Those are, you ding, and you just make the sound and you match the sound. So you're saying tune by ear, you're matching the tune. When you use a tuner, it's training your ear to hear the right pitches, and you got a better chance of tuning to something else once you've done that for a while, once you've trained your ear to hear what the exact right pitch is. But you never have to tune to a piano. By the way, what I didn't mention is why if I was playing with a piano player, I'd tune to the piano, is because some pianos aren't quite 100% in tune. So if I tune just to the tuner, I might not be in tune with the piano, and he can't just retune the piano to my tuner. You can, many tuners, you can adjust the tuner to make sure it's in tune with the piano. And it depends on your tuner. The better tuners do that, more expensive tuners. Hypothetically speaking, let's say I have two guitars, acoustics, and could I use one for regular tuning and one for dedicated other tuning, open tuning or something? Absolutely. That's a great use of two guitars. Let me go on to the chat and see what we got. This is a good one. David says, I'm trying to play standing up. I find it challenging. And I find it hard to look at my hands. And, I'm having a hard time when I stand up. When I sit down and I stand up, it feels different and it throws me off, basically. It feels harder. Well, it is. It's different. And there's an element of just different that you'll get used to if you just do it long enough. But here's a key that I found. And I went through this. I practiced quite a while, usually at home sitting down. But then I started playing with people and I had to stand up all the time. And at first it was very awkward. Put your strap on when you're sitting down and practicing. This, I wish I knew sooner. It would save me a lot of trouble. And make your strap, adjust it so your guitar just sits on your lap up like this. Because what's going to happen is when you stand up, it stays in the exact same place. What's likely happening now, or at least what was happening for me, is my guitar was lower on my lap and slightly angled. And then when I stood up, the guitar settled down lower and it was different hand position. You adjust the strap so it's in exactly the same place when you stand up, and that will make a big difference. There's still some getting used to it just by nature of standing up, but that will make a big difference. Hi, from England. Hello. If you're asking a question, if you could throw in the word question, which somebody did here, it'll help me because I can sort it out quickly from the comments. My question is, realistically, how much time should I be spending per practice session on, say, chords, scales, songs, etc.? It depends on how much you're practicing, and it depends on your goals. If you're playing classical guitar, you're not going to spend hardly any time on playing chords because that's not how classical guitar works. But if you're playing folk style guitar, you probably want to spend, let's say you have 10 minutes of practice, you want to spend probably most of that time on playing chords because you're going to use that more often. And play your chord forms and then make sure you spend some time switching between chords, not just playing chord forms in time. And that means slowing down, playing with a metronome, and making sure you can stay in line with the click, and little by little try and make it a little harder so you can play faster and play more chords in the amount of time. If you're practicing to play just folk style songs, you probably don't need to practice much scale, but I would learn at least a C major scale and use that as kind of a warm-up. Maybe not every day, but every other day. And then if you want to solo, you're going to need to start using some additional scales. The reason I say C major scale is it's an open position on the guitar, and it'll give you the kind of the foundation both to understand scales and for explaining music theory in the future, because they're all built on the major basic scale, and everything else can relate to that. And if you're improvising, you're probably going to want to start using a pentatonic scale. I'm talking rock and blues style. And usually the first one is an A minor pentatonic scale. So you start integrating that into your practice, and you play that a little bit each day. As you get more comfortable with it, you want to start trying to use it in different ways, not just play the scale up and down, but start playing along with a backing track to hear how it sounds with the backing track, and eventually start mixing up the notes to improvise. So again, depends on what you want to play. If you're playing songs, start aiming towards playing simple 2-chord songs, I would say, and then integrate that into your practice, and then move that up to 3-chord songs. Try to learn the chords in keys. There's no one right key to start with, but often people start with D because it's a common key, and the 3 main chords you use in D are D, G, and A7. The reason is because it'll train your ear to be able to hear the important chords in the key. Then you can kind of transpose that to different keys, and you'll hear the relationships. So D is a popular one. I would say another one is A, D, and E7. Those might be the first 2 that you work on. And then you'll have a few different variety of chords. C is a tougher one because you got the bar F chord. I would save that for later. Okay. Feel free to ask some more questions on that. There are so many YouTube videos, I get befuddled by them all. That is an issue. You just, when you're learning guitar, you really don't know which ones to watch and which ones would actually get you to that next step. I see so many students who are trying to do stuff that's just not appropriate for them. And I think YouTube engenders that because it's like in the candy store. You don't know which thing to grab. And you're very likely to just OD on stuff that's not really appropriate for you. Okay, that's all the questions I have for today. If I have just a couple of seconds, if you think of one more question, feel free to add it on here. Otherwise, I'm going to close up for today. I will make this a recording and I'll put timestamps. It'll take me a couple days, but I'll get the timestamps on there and then I'll send everybody a link with the timestamps so you can just pick and choose the questions that you want to go back and review. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. I hope you'll come back next month. I'll do this the second Thursday of every month. And feel free to send me your questions ahead of time. I do sometimes a little thinking or research and try to answer the questions more thoroughly if I have a heads up. But you're welcome to always just jump in and ask your questions live on the chat. Any last minute questions? No. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you again soon.